taste is first and foremost. Then it's like, what's the foundational story? What does the packaging look like? Everything, again, is like what we said, is that better for you? And we're constantly bringing in products. It's not, we don't have like a classic traditional retail type of rotation. For us, we're bringing products in weekly, every 2 weeks. And our team is just like, we're really good at just like continuously tasting things, trying things, looking at ways to change things up a little bit.
You're listening to Retail Remix, your inside access to candid conversations with the people shaping retail's future. Here's your host, Alicia Esposito.
If you're anything like me, you love a good snack. Not just any snack, but one that is not just tasty, but maybe even good for you. I know, it sounds too good to be true, but the Goods Mart is helping consumers get faster and easier access to delicious and nutritious foods, snacks, beverages, the whole nine. Now, granted, the Goods Mart only has 2 locations in New York City, but there is quite a bit in the pipeline. And Rachel Krupa, the founder, has some incredible history and, most importantly, passion for this world of snacking and CPG as a whole. So today, I ask a few probing questions, I guess you could say, about her professional career, what inspired her to start the Goods Mart, and honestly, we dig a little bit deeper into her approach, her vision, how she curates assortment, how she works with CPG brands, and really how that relationship is nurtured into not just getting products on a shelf, but forging community connections, running activations and events, and really carrying the brand's stories and missions across all channels. And with so many retailers, specifically mass retailers, big box retailers, grocery retailers, the big guys like the Whole Foods of the world, right, are so eager to bring in these more independent and emerging brands into their stores. It's fascinating to hear insights from someone like Rachel, who is really not just building those relationships directly, but shaping a completely new experience every step of the way. So without further ado, grab a snack, listen in, and enjoy the conversation. Rachel, welcome to Retail Remix. Thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you.
Yeah, likewise. And I think we have a fascinating discussion plan just about your story, about the Goods Mart, and honestly, just some general trends that you're seeing in the world of CPG, because you have quite a history in this world, one that spans nearly 2 decades. I guess the big question here is, what ultimately inspired you to open your convenience store and kind of create your own experience around CPG?
Yeah, it was a journey, and I think it started with talking about it. I've had Krupa Consulting, which is my PR agency now for 14 years, but have been doing PR collectively since 2002, so 22 years, which makes me sound so old. But it was through Krupa Consulting that we started working with early stage CPG brands and working with really incredible innovators within the space and help them launch. So everything from Brownie Brittle to Barnana to Taste Made and Thrive Market. So there was an understanding that there was this large category of better for you that was hitting a regular kind of grocery store. And at that time, the store opened in 2018. So in 2016, 2017, when I was starting to begin this idea, you still had mostly conventional grocery stores that there was better for you section. And in my brain, it was more of, what is everything else then? Then there was like the emergence of Whole Foods, which was amazing. And then they had a lot of their local section that was there. And then it was like, we're working with all these cool, innovative young brands. They're at Whole Foods sometimes. They're sometimes too early for Whole Foods, yet we're finding them in all these random places. Shouldn't there be a home for them? And a convenience store that you could just shop your values and really look at it from a different place. And so that was really the impetus of the Goods Mart, was just creating a convenience store that took the thought out of what you were consuming, but also supporting that young emerging brand.
I love it. And I think there are very interesting connecting points to a lot of these issues and trends that you were discussing. So that idea of better for you, but then also wanting to support emerging and innovative brands. And obviously there's that cross section there. And I'm sure there are lots of folks listening, just based on their own individual behaviors as consumers, it resonates with them. But for everyday folks, right? Everyday shoppers. I mean, how would you really distill that down, like as the elevator pitch, I guess you could say, or the value prop to folks that are outside of the industry and don't really grasp the big value prop, right? Like, how would you explain it to them and have them be like, oh, yeah, like that's actually something that I really need and something that I would actually shop every day?
Yeah, so we look at ourselves as a better for you, socially conscious convenience store, which is a lot of words. So basically, we say we're a discovery zone for the latest and the greatest snacks that are in that better for you category, because we don't like to say healthy. We like to say better for you because it's better quality ingredients. There's no GMOs, no artificial flavors. And it's just meeting people within the journey of what better for you is. We're not saying sugar's bad or monk fruit stevia are bad or carbs are bad. We're saying we're going to give you the really tastiest snacks that are just hitting the marketplace that have really better ingredients that don't contain the things that you don't need to have a tasty product, like red dye, blue dye, yellow dyes. But they're going to be fun. And these are going to be brands that are made by incredible humans that are doing it because they're so passionate about bringing their product to the world, that you're not only helping large macro of supporting the food system because they're using better ingredients, but you're also supporting an entrepreneur that is looking to make something that they want to put into this world. And you're really supporting, in our store, majority female and diverse founded brands too.
And also, who doesn't love like a good like discovery zone for snacks? Like that's like my favorite thing. Like discovering a new snack and then like a new brand that, even if I just get it once in a while, right? It's just like a fun little, I guess, I feel like novelty kind of has a negative connotation sometimes, but that's really what it is, right? It's like that little bit of surprise and delight and just knowing that that's the destination for it. I mean, that could be a big draw, I'm sure.
Yeah, we like to say it's like surprise and delight within yourself. There has been multiple journeys, I think, over the past 4 years with everything that's happened, that it would be transporting you to another region or another place in the world by having an incredible snack that's like a jerk Caribbean nut, to having an incredible chili flake oil where we weren't able to travel, so you were able to travel with your taste buds. And it's also a really great part where it's more of like an affordable luxury. You are seeing celebrities left and right supporting brands, being involved with snack and CPG world. But we're talking about items that are majority less than $10, less than $5. So it levels that playing field in regards of having a incredible luxury of a product that everyone is connected with, because food at every point connects us. It is filling a need of happiness, sadness, celebration. And so this is what connects us, that it doesn't need to be something large, a $200 dinner or a $50 dinner, but it's a $5 or $3 snack that can connect us and be that common ground for us.
I love that affordable luxury and then, a little luxury, right? Like in this day and age, like finding those little moments, it makes a big impact. And as of now, how many locations do you have?
We have 2 store locations.
Got it. In NYC, right?
Correct.
Okay, awesome. So, I mean, obviously, if we were to drill a little bit deeper into the experience that you're trying to create with the Goods Mart, as a convenience store, I immediately draw connections to the local bodega. I know the term shoppy shop is another term that's used quite a bit. And obviously, New York City is kind of like the ultimate, bodega city, right? We're surrounded by all of these great concepts and, boutique locations. And it's just like the perfect intermingling of, new, emerging and smaller businesses, which is so exciting. So I guess the big question is like, as you were building this concept up and the experience that you were trying to design with the consumer in mind, I mean, how did you really shape that in your mind and actually turn that into reality? And I guess the bigger question is like, how did you kind of use your not just CPG prowess, this, but, your PR expertise, right? Like knowing like what a hook is and what really draws consumers. Like, how did you take all of this into account as you were shaping what the Goods Mart, what that experience ultimately would be?
It was kind of crazy that there was no business plan and really no idea behind building it. I'm from a small town in Michigan, so the inspiration really came from our local Sunoco gas station, which I loved because it was a place where I remember growing up going in to get, back in the day, milk, eggs, good and plenties, good and fruities, like the red, white, and blue rocket pop. But it was a place that I went with my parents early on and been like, oh my gosh, I get to get this treat. Yes, that's like what the gas station was for me. And then as I started to drive and was 16, then it was a place of who am I going to run into when I'm going to get gas at the gas station or going in for my snack? And it became that community hub. And that's really what I was looking to build, because our first store was in Los Angeles in Silver Lake. And it was more of a standpoint of you're driving in your car a lot. You have community places, but it's not like New York. And so it was really creating a place that the community could come and just find something really great and tasty, but also a place that you would run into your neighbors and you would be able to say hi. Or majority of people kind of run in the same patterns of times. Like you have to drop kids off, you're going to work at this time. So you tend to run into the same people if you have a community corner store or convenience store. And that's really what it was looking to build. So it was like, how do you have really great coffee in the morning? So we have a really great drip coffee that we now use, Canyon Coffee from LA, and it's $1.25 for 8 ounces. We have organic, sometimes kombucha slushies that kids love coming to after school. Now in New York, people love coming when it's a hot day because they know that's where they can cool off. Then they're able to see the same team member working every day so that they're able to say, hey, Chloe, how are you? What do you love? Our goal is always obviously to be a place to discover snacks, but the also purpose is building a community, but also anyone that walks in should feel better when they walk out, whether that is $1.25 coffee, whether that's a smile, that's a conversation that they have with the team member, or finding their favorite snack or discovering their new favorite snack.
I love that. And I think that community connection is so critical. And we've been covering this more and more, how even the large enterprise brands are looking for ways to localize and really find those authentic through lines or connecting points to these communities, which, honestly, in my opinion, is harder when you're this like large behemoth business, right? With all these standards and red tape. But I mean, you built this business, the Goods Mart, with that community connection in mind. And I will say Krauser's was our like little like corner stores that we had a couple of them in our area. So I feel like that's something that just like really resonates authentically and organically with everybody, no matter where they're from. But, digging a little bit deeper into that community aspect, what else do you try to do to forge those community connections? Like we hear a lot about events, activations. I mean, clearly it's embedded into how you think about product offerings and what you sell. But more broadly, I mean, how does it tie to the experiences and activation-driven partnerships, anything like that that have been successful for you guys?
Yeah, we love just doing fun things. So last week, for example, at our Rockefeller Center location, we do every third Thursday of every month, Meet the Maker. So we invite different founders and makers in our store to go in the middle of Rockefeller Center, to go on the plaza and connect with not only the tourists, but the tenants. So they're getting impact of thousands of people being able to sample. And that is part of our connection for Rockefeller Center. The second Saturday of every month, we do Second Saturday. And that is also having brands on the sidewalk in our Soho location. We have one of our team members has a magazine club with indie magazines. So they're popping up. I love vintage shopping. So then I also have vintage snackware finds, so dishes and cups that you can use to put snacks in. And so we do different things like that. Then we have random first day of summer. We had dollar slushies and all the profits went to Elizabeth Street Gardens, which is an incredible garden near our Soho location. So we do things like that not only amplifies our brand to bring people in, but also having them to connect with founders and makers to be able to try them and also get that personal one-on-one connection that will make them loyal followers and fans much more than when they're off our shelves. They're going to remember that they tried it at the Goods Mart and now they're seeing this product in Whole Foods, in Sprouts, maybe discovering it on Amazon, who knows, but they're going to be like, I tried it here first. And that I think is what we look at of the levels of when we do community activations, building ourselves up, but building the brands that we're lucky to fill our store.
I love that. And I think it kind of levels up the investment on the consumer side, not just towards the Goods Mart, but to these brands, right? Because it's like when you have a personal name or a face to the brand, it's like it has that little bit of a stronger connection, but it also reaffirms, I think, the mission of what you're trying to do with the Goods Mart, which is, give people more access to these emerging brands, good for you brands, in a really fun and memorable way, which I think is so important, which I guess kind of leads me to my next few questions around, how you think about your merchandising mix and the brands you want to bring in, like what that rotation and what philosophies you try to apply here, because obviously the foundation of it all is kind of like good for you products, right? But I mean, are there any key standards or considerations that kind of go into this process? Are you kind of like actively scouting these brands? Do they come to you, or is it kind of a hybrid of both? And I'm sorry, I'm like so fascinated by this. So I gave you like 5 questions
I
at
love
once.
it.
So.
I will answer them all. I love the fire away questions. They're the best. So all of the above. So in the store, we look for just taste is everything. Then from there, it's what's the story behind it? What makes this brand different than others? Stores are 400 square feet is our biggest. 200 square feet is our 30 Rock location. So we have to just be a little bit more selective in the type of products that we carry just because it's real estate within our store. But that's really what we look for is taste is first and foremost. Then it's like, what's the foundational story? What does the packaging look like? Everything, again, is like what we said, is that better for you? And we're constantly bringing in products. We don't have like a classic traditional retail type of rotation. For us, we're bringing products in weekly, every 2 weeks. And our team is just like, we're really good at just like continuously tasting things, trying things, looking at ways to change things up a little bit. But brands reach out to us. We reach out to the brands. I love going and looking at coffee shops, commissary kitchens, brands introduce us to other brands. So it is a motley crew of way of how we get products and brands. But I think that's like the beauty of it, because we always want to know what's coming up, but also there might be brands that are too small for other retailers. And that's where we really want to be. We want brands to look at us as that first store that you're going into to kind of get your foot wet in like the CPG world and ask us the questions that you might be too nervous to ask a buyer from, say, Whole Foods or for Sprouts. Ask us, let's see and test things. An experiment, because that's like the nature of, you're going to have to be able to experiment and try things as a CPG founder. And I'm a big believer right now where it's like, if you're launching a product, and this is just like my belief, but go bold with your packaging at first. You're going to have to change it. That is going to be a guarantee 100%. You're going to have to change it after you launch, because you're going to grow and it's going to have to tame down a little bit, but go wild at first, because you're going to then jump off shelves. Then it's going to be time to kind of like button it up and make it a little bit more classic to what traditional retailers are going to want.
I love that. Some really good points there. And obviously just the model of the Goods Mart and, CPG, there's a lot to touching, seeing, obviously tasting the product in real life. But I mean, how do you think about the role of digital for the brand? Because obviously it's more local and that's what makes it shine, right? So how do you kind of think about balancing that scale and reach of digital, but also making sure that that essence of localization and community is still very much there?
Yeah, I think majority of the time we use digital for more of like social platforms just to spread the words of what we're doing. We do not have budgets to put big dollars behind spending on digital marketing or X, Y, and Z at right now. We have a e-commerce site that you can shop. We just don't really push it out. But I think what customers that shop it love is that you're able to find these incredible snacks that we might be one of the first or one of the first 10 to carry. And you can build your own box of like one of this, one of that, two of this, versus having to buy cases, which normally that you would have to do with a traditional D2C company, especially from a snack perspective. And people look at our digital side and our e-commerce store, it's like real gift giving too, gifting for yourself, but also sending it to others. And then that's the fun part too. If you're thinking about working in the stores, I love it. I would highly recommend anyone working in a store in a day. It's just fascinating of consumer insights. But then B, sending snack boxes to people and being able to handwrite the notes of like notes that people send to each other is such a warm fuzzy at times.
I love the idea of like those little boxes, and like it keeps the mission of the brand experience very much true. And I think that's so important, right? Those little touches, like you mentioned, like the handwritten notes. And, you know, obviously when brands reach a certain size, maybe that's not completely scalable, but I think even so, like that curation aspect, you know, I think is a very big opportunity, especially for CPG. But is there anything else that we haven't touched on yet? Like as far as how you partner with your brands, right? Because what I find most interesting about what you've built here is not just the foundational mission of, again, connecting consumers to emerging and good for you brands, but it just feels very high touch, not just for the consumer, but for the brands too. And it seems like you really tap into your personal knowledge and experience in CPG to really make sure it's a mutually beneficial relationship with brands. And, you know, not always easy for the big guys, but I feel like it's a big missing link for them too. So is there anything else that we haven't touched on yet, like as far as how you collaborate with the brands or really emphasize elevating them that we haven't touched on yet?
Yeah, I think all of it. Thank you for recognizing that. That is our goal, is really to help these emerging brands just to get in the hands of more people and to really be a partner with them and help them on their journey. Because the reason why the Goods Mart exists is to ultimately big picture. And sometimes this is like rose-colored glasses, but if you can put better for you products out there in the world, you're making the world a better place and you're making the food system a little bit better because of the fact that you're making these small brands that are thinking about all their ingredients, thinking about their packaging really win. And I believe the small movements and the small things every day can add up to a greater good. So that is the backbone of the Goods Mart. And we have our 2 retail stores now, but we're also really doing a really fun like curation business where we're doing products in hotel mini bars. We're doing event activations all the time. So we look at ourselves as not only a place that a brand can be on our retail stores, but also there's other avenues and directions for them to reach new customers.
Awesome. So, you know, to close out our time together, Rachel, I guess I really want to elevate the conversation a bit, mainly because you have your experience building the Goods Mart, working with brands, but also hearing from customers. But again, you have this really rich history in the CPG space. And I'll be honest, I haven't been super deep in this space until very recently. And I think the trigger point was during the pandemic, and so many brands were going D2C. We're seeing the rise of all of these really interesting, creative, and exciting brands, a lot of them in that kind of good for you category. And I feel like there have been so many great brands with great missions coming to the forefront. And what I find most exciting, and I feel like we've kind of talked about it indirectly, is that a lot more retailers are eager to bring on these brands, not just the Whole Foods of the world, but we're seeing them more in Target and like those more mass retailers. So I guess the big question for you, again, as someone who's actively participating in this space and as someone who has been in this space for quite some time, I mean, are there any key trends that you think are driving the evolution of the CPG space? Any business trends, product categories that you think are really bringing it to the next level or next era? Because I don't know, I feel like, again, there's so much change happening in this sector in particular, and it's leading to a lot of really exciting opportunities.
Yeah, I think it's been beautiful to see kind of just like the transformation over the past 6 years. But I think it's also looking at it that the big brands that we're seeing kind of take over right now, where you look at from like a standpoint of beverages, you're like looking at Olipop, you're looking at Partake Cookies, you're looking at all these incredible brands that everyone's like, oh, they're Whole Foods, they're Target, they're everywhere. From like a young founder of a CPG brand, I think it's also sometimes because you constantly compare yourself, that these brands have launched 7-8 years ago. And so they've been doing this for a long time. And so it's a slow, steady race to get into larger retail. And it's sticking to your guns and being able to kind of like build and pivot and going deep within a region and building that consumer base that are going to go and going to be your ride or die. And I think that's kind of where you're seeing from like a trend perspective. It's the CPG space is so incredibly beautiful right now, but I think because it's like what we talked about before, it is a more of an affordable luxury that can connect us all. And so that's why you're seeing it pop up within larger retailers. You're seeing it not only within like small food stores, but you're seeing it in fashion stores. Food is connecting all of us. You're seeing cafes and product cafes open up and large designer opening up snack shops or doing their version of a corner store. Because I think food is what connects us and it brings us together. And I think that's really what is making the system go so much faster because it's not crazy expensive. It is to be in the industry on that side, but from a consumer side, not as crazy to participate. And I think that's what we needed a lot over the past, is particularly 4 or 5 years when we've been going through just like this topsy twirl of this incredible world that we've been going through of this transition. And it's what kind of kept us grounded and it kept us connected and it kept us also healthy. And that's why I think this better for you category is there because people are more aware. They have more education at their fingertips of what they're putting in their body and the quality of ingredients and where it comes from. They're able to transport their taste buds to another place without having to leave their couch. I think that's the beauty of the CPG industry.
Yeah, I love it. Rachel, thank you again so much for taking the time out to share your story, share your approach, and all of the great things that you've done and continue to do in the world of CPG. Appreciate the time. And to all of you, hope you enjoyed listening to this conversation. If you have any feedback on the episode or have any follow-up questions for Rachel, drop us a line on LinkedIn is where we usually are at Retail Touchpoints. We'll make sure Rachel is tagged so you can easily connect with her. And we're sometimes on X, formerly known as Twitter as well. But of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that we are on all of the podcast platforms. So wherever you get your podcasts, we're likely there. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. So when you check out the show and hopefully subscribe, be sure to leave us a rating and review on the show itself. Share your feedback, share your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. And again, be sure to subscribe because every week we're sitting down with founders, retail executives, practitioners, those that are really shaping the future of the industry. So when you subscribe, you get the latest and greatest episode delivered right to your preferred device. But for now, that's it from us, everyone. Thank you again so much for joining us. We will see you next time. Take care.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Retail Remix. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can find us on your favorite podcast player. Until next time, keep mixing it up.